What about cost savings? Let's go and let's take a look at something here. I'm going to go back to AtScale and show you our query log and show you a neat trick in Google BigQuery about estimating cost of queries. So here's that color and size query. It took 7 seconds originally. And if you look at our inbound, you can see that we intercepted this query from Tableau. But we actually rewrote the query to run it against BigQuery. And this is the query that we ran. Imagine your users having to write queries like this in BigQuery. We do that for you. It's obviously very complicated to do a query like this, but using AtScale's machine-generated SQL, we're going to do that for you, and we're going to do it efficiently as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this into my, my query. And what you're going to see over here on the right is that you see that this query is going to process 1.6 megabytes when run. Now, what that means is that 1.6 megabytes is what what you're gonna pay on a per query basis, because Google BigQuery, one of their pricing models is their base pricing model is based on the amount of data you're scanning. So let's keep that in mind. That's 1.6 megs. Let's go and I have a little translator over here. You can see here Google Cloud has a very nifty cost analyzer, so you can do cost estimates here. So be sure to use that. I'm going to go ahead and put in my 1.6 megabytes here. I'm going to translate that to kilobytes because you're going to see why in a second. Okay, let's go back to Tableau and let's refresh this query one more time. Okay, it actually did refresh. We saw how fast it was because AtScale actually created in its adaptive cache an aggregate table. So let's go back and see what AtScale did now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh. Now you see that this new query, same color and size, this time it took less than a second, 834 milliseconds. So let's go and let's look at that query. This is the adaptive cache at work. And so here's the new query that it used, and you can see that we're using an aggregate instead of hitting the raw data. Now let's go back to BigQuery. Let's replace that 1.6 megabyte query with our new AtScale query that's been optimized using our adaptive cache, and look what happens. It's 1.2 kilobytes. So let's go and let's do the calculation to see how much AtScale would have saved you on this particular query. So that's 1,600 kilobytes for the original query, which was unoptimized. And the optimized query was 1.2 kilobytes. That's a 1,300 times cost savings just for that one query. So not only did AtScale make that query fast from 7 seconds to under 1 second, it also saved you a ton of money. So that's a whirlwind tour of AtScale and just how much we can improve and save you money, save you time, give you agility so you can introduce new data sources and get you moved to this great platform BigQuery as soon as possible. Let's go and see how it looks in Excel, for example. So I'm going to go ahead and load up my Excel, and I'm going to connect live with Excel. So let's go and connect using the built-in analysis services connector. What this means for your users, if you have Excel, is that you're now able to connect Excel live to your Google Cloud. That's pretty impressive because now, oops, let me get that connection string here. Paste that in. Oops. Try that one more time. There we go. There's my demo virtual cube that I just created here. Now as I create a live pivot table here, I can go ahead and you'll see the same metadata that you see in Tableau is now going to appear right here live in Excel. Same metadata, same answer. same lightning fast performance, and obviously same security and governance rules all apply. Let's go ahead and just make this cube consumable by my BI users. We're going to do that by publishing it. So I'm going to publish that virtual cube. And now that virtual cube called demo is now available for people to connect to. So let's go ahead and let's connect to it using first Tableau. So now what I'm going to do, now that I define that virtual cube, remember I didn't do anything other than defining the model. Now I'm logging in to the AtScale service with Tableau. This is now a live connection to the AtScale virtual cube. So there it is. There's all the dimensions that I just created. You can see my product dimension has a hierarchy. Let's go and start to run some live queries now. So now what I'm running, that was a live query that ran directly against Google BigQuery. So let's look at my orders, and let's look at my orders by product. You can see that. Very good. Google BigQuery is nice and fast. Let's look at my orders by color. Now color, remember, was a nested field. So, so this is something that we were actually able to render without having to break it out. So that was a key value pair that I'm now visualizing just like as a flat dimension. Very nice. Let's go. So the first thing you see here is this is Design Center. Design Center is a web-based UI. This is how we're going to be defining our virtual cubes. You can see that I have my connection to my Google BigQuery warehouse. Of course, I can connect multiple warehouses in AtScale. In this case, we're going to be using the Google BigQuery warehouse. If I look at my data, I'm working within a demo data set today on my AtScale data warehouse on the Google platform. You can see I have some raw data here loaded in some Google tables. So let's go and let's create a virtual cube. So let's go to our landing page here. What you'll notice is I can create virtual cubes either from scratch, or I can actually import them as XML documents, or by using these wizards to actually translate all that business logic that's embedded in either your cube or AI tools, translate those directly into an AtScale virtual cube. So you can see how the process works. I'm actually going to create a cube manually today by clicking on the new cube and calling it, let's call it demo. So as I create that demo cube, now I'm going to enter into what we call our canvas. So what do we have here? It's a blank canvas. Left-hand side is where our data goes. Right-hand side is our preview for what the business user is going to see with their BI tool. So I'm going to start with my AtScale data warehouse. You see that there? You see there's my demo schema that you saw in Google BigQuery. I didn't have to do anything to get this. We're reading the Google BigQuery catalog directly, which means as new data appears, I can go ahead and use this data source panel and actually put it onto my canvas. Let's go. So here's my sales log that I'm going to be using today. If I look at this data or look at the data through what we call our data set composer, you can see here's my data, and I can work with this data directly on this canvas. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to convert this date into a date time, I can go ahead and do that. And you can see that my data is being updated live before me. So I converted that date into a time. Or I can create new columns of data, new calculations. I'll create a sales tax, for example, by taking my sales amount times 8.5%. That query now is just, if I save that, becomes a new column in my virtual view here. And I can come back to my designer. You can see that I now have my sales tax column calculated there, and I can go ahead and drag that into my virtual cube that I'm creating. So now if I look at preview, I have one measure called sales tax. So let's go and add some more measures like sales amount. and order quantity. I can do complex calculations, like I got my, my customer key here. I can actually turn that customer key into a distinct count by changing my aggregation handler to say distinct count. So now I can count my distinct customers. Let's go. Let's start building out some dimensions. I'm going to go to our library and look at our dimensions here in our library. AtScale is all about reuse and all about using objects and reusing those objects over and over again. I'm going to pull in my dates dimensions. You can notice it has a couple hierarchies, including the product dimension, and let's even pull on a customer dimension onto my canvas. So how do these work? I simply wire up these dimensions to my raw data. So let's take my order date, connect it up to my date hierarchy, give it a prefix of order, and voila, if I look over here, I've now inherited my order date, my hierarchy that I just landed on. Day, month, quarter, year. Simple as that. Do the same thing with ship date. And I'll have my ship date here. Let's connect up my products. And I have products now being added over here. Let's connect up my, my customer. And now I have my customer also in here. What about nested data? Google BigQuery is really great with nested data. So product info is actually a set of key value pairs. I can actually go ahead and split that out and add color, for example. Color now becomes a virtual dimension. I can go ahead and put that in my dimension pane. And now I have color as a automatic dimension. No need to create any kind of ETL, no need to create dimension tables. I'm actually creating my star schema virtually on the left-hand side as I sort of build out my, my virtual cube.